Hey folks, this is Best in the Slot, and as promised, we're continuing our aquatic park today. Today with the grey seals. This is kind of a companion enclosure to the king penguins from yesterday. Just in that, as you can see here, it is a double-sided underwater viewing area. You walk down, you can see the underwater viewing on the left, and you can see it on the right, which I thought was kind of cool. Now, a lot of people commented, or a few people at least mentioned that they were glad in yesterday's video that I just built like a normal zoo exhibit. It looks like an exhibit you would see at the zoo. This one will not. I'm afraid this one I went back to my love of theming. But what I'm going to try to do is just mix and match. You know, so maybe the giant otters will be very zoo-like, and the caiman will be super themed, or vice versa. We'll try to keep a good balance of both. But I got struck with this idea of a this kind of Innsmouth, the I can't remember the actual full title off the top of my head for some reason, but the Tales of Innsmouth, the Lovecraftian cthulhu stories, right? I had this idea of building something like that. I just saw this like rocky beach leading into this like moonlit sea with a lighthouse blinking in the distance, and it kind of suited the seals to me. So that's kind of what I did, basically, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to build a bay, a promenade, a dock, whatever you want to call it, basically, with like a pier, and we're going to build, right now, a lighthouse. Now, this was the hardest part. There is one provided, you can see right there. I was tempted to use it, but I felt like I had to make my own. However, it proved to be much more difficult than I expected. So it does take a little bit of time and faffing around and practicing to get this right. But I did find a lighthouse I really liked on Pinterest, and I specifically wanted to build that lighthouse. So whilst I'm looking at this one, that's more for basically how did they do it, what materials did they use, so I could have an idea about how to recreate my own lighthouse, but one that would eventually look pretty good as well. And what they do is, as you can see, kind of stagger the wood in closer to each other with each sort of level. And I wanted mine to be a lot bigger, just because I wanted you to be able to see it from a distance, from the far side of the exhibit, basically. And it's going to be working and shooting out a big spotlight of light into the night. It was hard work, though. It really was. So just putting those all together. This was the tricky part, really. It's trying to make it tilt inwards, because this is obviously standing up straight right now. The idea is it's going to bend inwards slightly like a lighthouse would. It gets, thinner towards the top, or at least this one does. And that one does there, the one that I was using for inspiration. And to do that and then hide the inside at the same time proved to be quite difficult. But I think we got there in the end. It ends up looking pretty bloody cool. I actually really like this enclosure. This is one of my favourite things I've ever built on Planet Zoo. It's definitely not a typical zoo exhibit at all. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But in terms of just sheer aesthetic and theming, you know how I love my theming, I really think it worked. I was really quite happy with this one. But we'll see if you guys feel the same. And it's the seals, and the seals are awesome. So very excited about that as well. Here I was just trying multiple different sort of textures, different pieces of wood, just anything to... You can see the problem. All the wood is leaning in, but you've got this kind of gap at the sides because the wood gets thinner as it goes up. So if you put those next to each other, then of course there's a gap where the two slabs of wood aren't meeting anymore. So I just had to find something that would tilt inwards and kind of cover both gaps, and it turns out these beams did a pretty good job of it. So I'm going to stick those in there, make them white, and then work on the rest. There's a little surprise in this enclosure, which I haven't mentioned yet, but you'll see it later. But anyways, yeah, I really enjoyed this build. This was like a 4-hour build you're watching right here. I've sped this one up quite a lot. I just really got into it. I had a really strong idea in my head. I knew exactly what I wanted the whole thing to look like, and kind of had something to go off, That's always more fun, I think. So yeah, just building the lighthouse. Again, using the other for material inspiration. We've got some girders around there. Just put some wood down there so there's like a walkway. Gonna do... Again, I'm basing this off an existing lighthouse, one that I found on Pinterest, so I'm not really using the other one completely, and this one had a red metal railing along the top. Took a little bit of time, but we got there in the end. Don't really have much else to add. Looks nice though, doesn't it? It's cool. It's cool. Yeah, it's good. Just getting things like getting this perfectly aligned, it was surprisingly annoying. If one thing, I got there eventually, it's like an inch out of alignment. You might not notice at first, but by the time you get to the top, that inch out of alignment becomes such a big deal, you know? So you really do have to get everything bang on from the very start. You can see I'm having to go back a little bit and sort of rearrange to make sure everything actually fits here. But I think that's about the time we managed it. And then I was wondering what they used in the middle, but we ended up doing my own thing anyway. And that's the new painted slate roof. That's part of the expansion as well, which is pretty cool. Gonna bring those poles up, connect that on. The roof looks a little bit heavy for the poles. It's one of my only problems I have with this design. But gonna cover that a little bit. One thing I'd actually really like in this, I've needed this twice now, you'll see it in tomorrow's episode as well, but I'd like more glass options. I'd love like a glass casing for the actual light, but at the end I just couldn't find one. I ended up having to just kind of stick the light there. I think I ended up making one out of blocks of light, but it doesn't look great. There it is. Now we're going to use the big boy light, of course, but generally speaking, that's the lighthouse right there, folks. That is approximately what it's going to end up looking like. And it's going to sit there in the corner and shine the light across the entire exhibit, and also provide a nice focal point as you're walking through the penguin habitat as well. I really like when I build a zoo, I really like to frame it in a photography kind of sense, in that it's built of little images where, you know, the picture is broken up by points of interest and rule of threes and all this kind of nonsense. I'm not trying to sound pretentious. But I do really like photography, and it comes to play in this kind of thing sometimes. Not for building a zoo that an animal would use, but for one that we like, yeah! Again, just trying to add windows, because there's the, what's it called again? The lighthouse that I was looking at had windows, so there you go. Now, that's the basis. So you can see there needed to be like a flat area towards the front where the seals could actually sit and you would be able to look at them. I wasn't quite managing to link the path together and make all that work in the way I wanted at first, as you can kind of tell, but this also worked out in the end as well, I hope. But there's going to be a lot of rock, so if you enjoyed the faux rock in the penguin habitat, prepare yourselves for probably even more faux rocks in the seal habitat, because again, I saw this like rocky beach in my head, and that's just really what I want to do. This is the casing for the lighthouse light. It's just 4 pieces of glass stuck together, just so there's something there, because you wouldn't just have the light kind of just, you know, doing nothing basically. Had to make it a little bit wider, but ended up fitting nicely in there. We got the middle look good. I was really happy with it at the end. I was a little apprehensive at first because it didn't seem to be working. I was a little bit inspired by the film The Lighthouse as well, I will admit. I love this idea of this old fishing village, just rocky and rainy, and it's always nighttime, and mist creeps in over the sea, and there's like this old weary lighthouse off on this rocky hill, and it's just, the light's constantly going, even if nobody maintains it, and it's, you know, there's plant life hanging on the rocks, and the rocks are all soaking wet, and the storms, and I saw it, and I couldn't not do it, basically. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here. No idea. Oh, right, okay, yeah. So the idea was, because this is underwater viewing for both, I kind of want the rock colour to blend across, so that the transition from Arctic rock to this more sort of stormy sea kind of rock was a little bit more natural. Again, I still don't know what I'm going to put on that little passageway, you know, over the underwater viewing area. I don't know what is going to go there at this moment in time. I'd like to come up with something. If any of you have any ideas, feel free to let me know. I kind of want to build a boat, but I also don't want to have to build a boat, you know? So that's really my problem right now. I want a boat, but I don't want to have to actually build a boat. And I probably would have to build a boat, so. Lots of faux rocks. They are so good. They're so good. Just stack them all in there. This is what I mean. I always use rock 3. The flatter one that we used to build this pillar, and then add other stuff around it, and it kind of breaks up the monotony of rock 3, and it, you know, it kind of doesn't make it look like it's all built from one rock. You can kind of add the detailing later. I think it's good to have a buttery biscuit base, as they say. I got a base. I got a buttery biscuit base. I'm sorry. I'm really enjoying this build though. I still haven't done the final 2 habitats. I'm going to try to do another one of those today. You are hearing me in not real time, but you're going to see this video today. Today is the day I'm recording this voiceover. Today's the day I'm recording this voiceover. Little weather vane on there. Decided to change. I liked the boardwalk look for the pathway, but I also want to use it for this docks pier kind of area. And the signs are working this time as well, finally. I wanted to use it for the pier area, and I thought if that's the same path we have everywhere else, it's going to lose a little bit of impact. So we swapped the penguin over to the aquatic pack instead, aquatic path, which I think it looks a lot better. And some of you may have noticed that because obviously I showed you the exhibit yesterday post time-lapse. That makes sense. But it would have been post this build as well, so it would have already changed. I think it looks better anyway. It's more suiting a penguin exhibit in a zoo, basically. I don't know what I'm doing there. I never know what I'm doing. I always feel like I'm watching this for the first time. This was a few days ago now. I'm like, I'm doing something, I'm sure. We'll figure it out eventually. Trying to put the path in, so that's what I wanted. Like a nice straight... Again, like a pier. I was kind of inspired a little bit by the Isle of Man, where I grew up. I lived very, very close to the sea. It took a little bit of finagling to get this path to work in a way that I was happy, and this was... I don't think... Raised paths are so rarely a good idea, I feel. Got there in the end, though. Promise. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Bang on. Beautiful stuff. Had to sink down the coastline a little bit, because you have to be able to look in and see over the edge and see into the enclosure. Went online again, found like a... kind of like a Casablanca style, just like an oldie English pier, and you know, what would the bridges, what would the benches look like, what would the fences look like, what the lamps look like. So I kind of based it all on that, so this is why we're using this classic stuff, which I will say, I don't think I've ever used that fencing before in Planet Zoo, so it was really cool to use it for the first time. I've never built like a classic zoo, you know? A little bit of British in it. There you go, so there's our... doesn't it look like a pier? I'm really happy with it. Especially at nighttime, it's so cute at nighttime. I need to add a bit of fog. It doesn't have any fog right now. I think it needs like a low mist rolling in. There's our lampposts again. Classic vibe going on. Yeah, look at that. They're adorable. As much as a lamppost can be adorable, but just roll with me on this one. There we go. And we'll change the rest of the path around this to aquatic as well, just to make it really, as you can see right there, just to make it really stand out as an individual part, you know, a themed area. And the gull has to be there. The gull has to be in every habitat. It's the law now. Decided it's a thing. So the challenge really here is just making sure that these seals can get in and out whilst maintaining the kind of staggered bay look that I want. I don't know if they can at this point in time. I haven't added the seals. I've not done the part 2 of this video quite yet. So we'll have to wait and see, basically. I was really struggling to get this to work for some reason. The door just did not want to push out the right way. And how they're going to get in and out, though, we're going to build a pier, and the pier is going to stretch down towards that staff entrance on the left, so the staff member will walk into the exhibit on this, along the pier, and then be able to walk back down into the habitat. The only thing I am unsure about with this is it looks a little bit too well built. It's very well constructed. Built a little staircase here. And I really like the new the sleeping habitat thing we got, you know, the dock item as part of the aquatic update, so I'm tempted to replace the wood with that instead. I think that might look a little bit more appropriate, but this ends up looking alright as well. Again, everything inspired by real places, so the way that they construct the bottom of docks and the fences they use and stuff like that is all going to be based on real life. A lot of them is very simple. It's like, this is just big old logs, basically. You can't go wrong with a big old log, can you? There you go, big old logs. Double those up, nice and sturdy. I knew I wanted a fence, but I kind of struggled with this for a while. Went back and forth on a few different options, but this is the Australian metal fence, and I think it's got that kind of rusted, slightly older appearance I liked, but it was a little bit too big. I just wanted something quite small, so we're going to use this instead. You can see it sticking out at the bottom, but fortunately when the water's in, you won't really notice that anymore, so it's A-okay. And again, we get to do some theming stuff, so we get to put some boxes in. It was kind of like an old working area, you know, there's a wheelbarrow, there's some pallets and stuff like that. Like, people were building this dock area or something before the old gods arrived, basically. So just hang around and things. Someone's been over there, he's been doing some fishing, but it's neglected now. And smattering of that stuff around in the general habitat, and of course in the actual in the water as well. Eventually, one thing I struggled with was finding a light that felt appropriate for this kind of area. What I want is like an old style like oil lamp, but we don't really have one. I want some more rustic stuff, but I figured like an old spotlight. You'd have that kind of thing lying around on a worksite, maybe. Either way, it was important that the bridge was highlighted because it's important. So, yeah, bridge, pier. Now, more rocks. Had to get rid of that ugly little dip over there anyway. Dip, take a sip. It's my music. Usually I just find a band that I'm into and I kind of just play their entire discography whilst I'm doing this. But as I say, this was like a 4-hour build, and I think I went through every single song that the Messages have ever played, so had to go change that quickly. Yeah, I love these rocks, I really do. I'm going to mention this a lot in the series. The next habitat as well has so many rocks in it. I do think it'll calm down after that. I can't imagine the caiman or the giant otter using the faux rocks nearly to the level that these 3 habitats have, but we'll not gonna guarantee that until I've built them. But I like the idea of kind of having the natural ground there and also having the rock and kind of blending the two together. And I think it looks really good, actually. I think it's really effective, especially when the water's there. And what I really liked was how the water on this level, that's what I'm doing there, the water kind of sinks in a little bit on the left and the right, so it kind of makes like a little rock pool as well, which I thought was really cool. So I wanted to put like a little palette in there because it's kind of washed in and then got caught in the rock pool and stuff like that. Little seating area, little just ridge of rock. Again, some stuff is washed in. I'd like it to feel at least a little realistic. So the idea is, of course, stuff is floating in the water and it's swayed along and it's bumped into the rock and kind of got stuck there. And that would be like a natural resting place for some of this stuff in the water. I can't help myself. I will say, every time I put a pallet in the water, I think of The Last of Us. There you go, some info. And a boat. I'm going to build a little ladder as well, just because it looked a little silly. This inaccessible lighthouse. So there I am building a ladder. Don't get me wrong, the lighthouse still doesn't look accessible, but it looks more accessible than it did. There you go. So he boats up and then he climbs up the ladder and goes into the lighthouse. And there's our underwater feeder. This ends up looking a lot more interesting than the penguin one. There's a lot more rock and sea life and stuff like that. I actually have to go back and maybe make the penguin one a bit more interesting. And then light them up. This was actually the first time we did this. You already saw this with the penguin habitat, but the idea again was just to make them more interesting. Light them up with blue light, so then as you can see at night time, you can come down here and you can see the feeder in particular. More than anything else, you can see the underwater feeder, so when it's in use and the seals are swimming down there in the middle of the night, you can stand there in the underwater viewing area and watch them feed, which I thought was a cool idea. Because it is a cool idea. Yeah. The exhibit itself needs a little bit of lighting. Of course, like I said, I did focus on lighting this time around, more than usual. Don't know what I'm doing here. I think I'm turning the lights down a little bit. Yeah, just trying to... They were a little bit too harsh, so I just want to dim them down a little bit. I'm really happy with it. I really am. What are we doing next? Let's find out. More rocks. Gotta just make it symmetrical on both sides, basically, but with different colours, of course. So it looks a little bit more professional as you're down there. And then, so this is what I was on about. I had this idea. It's a very hard thing to recreate in Planet Zoo, but the idea was to have a Lovecraftian monster emerging from the depths. And that's what he's going to look like. Those are his teeth. It's like a squid beak, cut at the top. There he is. He looks great. Give him some spooky lighting. It's a little bit excessive at the moment. This does get toned down pretty hard. You can't even see him from the underwater viewing bunker. So basically the only one that can see it is you right now and the seals. So it's terrifying for the seals and entertaining for myself. So that was enough reason to do it. You get a little glimpse of it though. You can see his eyes glowing. And I just thought that was quite a cool little hint of something untoward going on in the area. Put some arches up there. I think arches have a very classical, some dark stuff's going down kind of appeal. I don't know why, but I associate the arch with dark magic or something. So, sorry if you own an arch store or something. Oh, God. Yeah, really happy with it. Lots of trees. One of the important things, I think, when you're building a zoo, if it's not a huge zoo, that's not going to take up like the entire map. God, even if it is, one of the most important things you can do is add a backdrop, essentially. Zoos lose a lot of their power in this game because the maps are so huge in this game. If you can see way off into the distance this huge open plain that we've got right here and then the mountains, the zoo feels fake. So the best advice I would have to people to avoid that is to simply surround it with trees, like hardcore surround it with trees, and not just standing trees, because you can see through the trees, you can see like between the trunks, you can see daylight. Cover the area with trees and then sink them down into the ground, so like the top half of the tree is sunk, is at the bottom, is like matched with the bottom, if that makes sense. And that way you can't really tell from looking at it, but in reality what it does is kind of hides the world, basically. And it's a good idea. Trust me. You'll see what I mean in a sec, because this has all been developed. Anyways, this is like a little intro section. Basically, just a little display to tell you where you are, what you're looking at, blah, 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 blah. I really wanted to use the weeping willows, so we're going to use those in this habitat and the next. And then I found the wisteria, and I became a little bit obsessed with the wisteria. Now, I accept that wisteria wouldn't be in this position, but wisteria sunk into the rock kind of has that mossy, climbing rock kind of feel to it. Like, it looks like a plant that would grow on wet rock, basically. So I use that quite a lot going forward. But there's our little dancing seal statue, just to introduce you to Seal Harbour, I think it's called. Or is it Seal Bay? I like Seal Harbour more because it's kind of a joke, because there's also harbour seals. Alright? Yeah. Hilarious. Yeah, I'll have to maybe rename that. I think I ended up calling it Seal Bay. But yeah, nothing special about that. Anyone can build that. It's just a bunch of rocks, some lights, some seals sitting on top of each other, and some letters. Seal Bay. There you go. Bam. And the dirt is gone. The dirt's never gone. Sorry. I get like 15 minutes into... How long have I been talking? 22 minutes. I mean, it's hard to talk for 22 minutes when I'm watching myself play a game. Other YouTubers who do Planet Zoo and time-lapse, they don't do this. They talk for 5 minutes and then they shut up and play music. I've got too much to say. Look at it. It's cool. It looks really good. I do this for this and the next exhibit. The idea, to an extent, and the reason why this is very prevalent here and on the next habitat tomorrow, which is the terrapin habitat, which people may think that's not that exciting, but I think I've made the terrapin really interesting, by the way. So you want to check out tomorrow's video, just trust me. I liked the idea of there being links between all of the habitats in a way. And I did one for the first two, and I can't really remember what. I guess like the prevalence of rocks and the underwater viewing area, combining the two together. And it's just because they're all quite disparate habitats. Oh, I will say the order of the animals is very calculated as well. So we've gone Arctic to kind of the US to the South America. The idea was it got warmer as we went around, and I thought that would prevent some of the whiplash from these very different atmospheres and different areas. Anyways, I will show you that habitat in game now, and we'll get our seals in and hang out with them for a little bit. I'll see you in a sec. Finally, I can record the second part of this video to get my enclosure to the point where the seals could actually explore it and walk around, and more importantly, where my zookeepers could give food to my seals. Took a... look at him hopping around in the background. Took a long time. You'll see that this area here in front of the food trays is much more clear than it was. The seals just couldn't get over here at all. I'm hoping that my zookeeper can walk across this bit of water here. If not, what we'll do, just to make sure, just build him a little bit of a bridge. Unfortunately, I have to sacrifice some of my my theming love to make sure that the exhibit actually functions on a basic level. Let's just make sure that's good for the seals. Let's click, who have we got here? We've got Chioke. We're going to click the heat map. There we go. There we go. So, they can get over here, they can get up there, and they can, of course, cross the entire pier. And over there, which I built like a little bridge here out of bamboo, because it's all I could find. Basically, we'll just hide that. You won't really see that at all. Anyway. Okay, I think I'm finally... Hello, beautiful! She looks so happy. I love them so much. They actually are my favourite. They're going to take over the penguins, I think. She's got... I'm going to give her a hand, because this is a hell of a journey she has ahead of her right here. Let's just chuck her over there. There we go. Verity, who have we got over here? You're struggling a bit as well, aren't you, Nella? I mean, they can hang around here. They're okay. I'm going to put like a little bit of a gap just there. I'm wondering if maybe if they can like chuck themselves off the pier. That'd be pretty cool. Who have we got over here? This is Rhea. Rhea is pooping. So let's have a little look around the habitat. So I'll show you from over here first. Just a nice little view of it. I really do like it. I'm not gonna lie. It makes me happy. Let's grab that grey seal over there as well. I think it's really cool. I don't know what else to tell you. You're not allowed to look over there yet, but you can see what I mean by just surrounding the backdrop with trees, so it looks like it goes off and off, potentially into the distance. And because you can't see, I mean, you can over there, of course, but when you're walking around here, you can't see off into the distance behind here. It kind of shuts everything down. It makes it feel much more enclosed than I think realistic. But yeah, I'll show you this at night time at some point in a moment. But that is Seal Bay. There's a little gull, of course. And let's hang out. There's a little cthulhu monster. There are no words. We will not pretend there are. Oh, the bopping. Hey, look at him go. Suck that poop right out. No problems. What are you doing, you big old weirdo? Oh, she's so happy. Are you going to feed the animals at some point, or... I'm a little concerned that he can't get down here, but given that the seals can, you'd think that he can as well. Okay, that arch is a disaster. I never noticed until just now. Oh, but you're going to swim under it, maybe. I can't move it until she swam under it. Come on. Come on. Ah, I just threw it instead. That's fine. That's okay. That's science. Not going to argue. Because you're in a video game, and that would be pointless. Let's just fix that up a little bit there. Hanging out with my cthulhu monster. Oh, there's disasters everywhere. Disasters absolutely blimmin' everywhere, folks. It's hard to notice sometimes. I kind of just haphazardly put all these down. Haphazardly, official term. But clearly needs a little bit of love, I think. Okay, not going to do whatever I just did there. Hello! You big old chunk. Let's go check on the... Hello! Hello! I love how much time they spend underwater. Now, seals would spend a lot of time on land. I get that, technically, but... I don't know, it just looks cooler. Really, is that not the most important thing? Are you ever going to get off this pier? I believe in you. What's your name? Is it Rhea? Come on, Rhea, you can do it, girl. You can do it. Bound your way to freedom. Nope, you're giving up. It's nap time, never mind. Just having a little bask. Have a little stretch. Oh, let's have a little look down here. Anyone hanging around? Oh, they all got... I think they've all gone for a swim. Rhea is on her own at the top. There are 6 seals in here. I thought I'd leave a little bit of wiggle room. You can have 8 of them. But then we've got room in case somebody wants to pop out some babies. That's a very sharp piece of land I got there. And they look great. I could honestly just sit here and watch them from a distance swim around and find it immensely enjoyable. I love the spin as well. And then bubbles all appearing around the mouth. Yeah, it's all very cool. It's all very cool. Anyways, right, so that is the enclosure built. So as I mentioned, it's aquatic and... Oh, can't look at that. It's aquatic and it's aquatic and then it's the pier. I could do with maybe some plant life right here. There we go. Fixed it. Sorted. Yeah, I mean, I said it has a Cthulhu kind of theme to it. It doesn't really show like that. It kind of seems quite wholesome to me and quite pleasant to look at. I guess if when we swap over to nighttime, we can bring that back a little bit though. Let's do just that. So the pier itself looks really nice at night. I really like how that looks with the lights all lit up there. And the lighthouse in the distance. I lit up the door just so the lighthouse itself sticks out a little bit more, but the actual light of the lighthouse looks really cool, just shining out of there across the entire area. Really, really like that. I was considering hiding like a spotlight around here, and that would be the light from the lighthouse, but hey-ho. We'll also pretend that the lighthouse facing towards us makes sense, when of course it would be facing off there into the trees, or, you know, into the ocean, basically, but then you wouldn't be able to see the light, and that's stupid, so... Let's check on Rhea. Has she made any movement? Nope, she has not moved a single inch. Okay, good job, girl. Good job. There we go. There's our monster all beautifully lit up. I really didn't know what else to do, so I did like tentacles reaching from the ground, and of course it's got like a beaky mouth, and it's got big glowing eyes. Hello? I just did not know what else to do. Oh, we're going up, we're going up, we're going down, we're going up. Which way are we going? We're breaching. They really are spending all their time in the water, aren't they? I'm hoping this doesn't mean they can't get out of the water. I would like to see at least one seal make it back onto land. That would make me happy. Let's just double check this, shall we? I'm a little apprehensive. Yeah, no, we're okay, we're okay. That's cool. As long as they can get out. If they want to spend all their time underwater, I'm totally okay with that, because that looks really cool. But, the seal has found Cthulhu. Look at that! That's awesome! It makes me so happy. And, of course, we have the underwater viewing over here, so I'll just show you that quickly. I really like this, so you walk under, and, like I said, there needs to be something here. I don't like this sightline. I'm all about the sightlines. And that needs something kind of blocking your view a little bit from the next habitat, but also it just... I don't think it's a big deal, but I would like something there. I just don't know what it would be right now. There's a seal, there's a penguin, which is actually a little bit too far to the right for my liking. Just shuffle you back over there. There we go. And down we go. And you can see both enclosures. Like I said, this one on the left needs a little bit of love. Oh, they actually fed them. Amazing. Wait, let's go. Oh, it's actually working, so you can watch it from in here. Actually, it's probably better at nighttime, honestly. Like I said, this entire place has been designed to work at nighttime. So you'd stand here, look out into the enclosure, and see the penguins swooping around. What about when we're over here? Yes! Hello! Oh, it's working as well. Oh, this is exactly what I wanted. To have this kind of darkness, and then you'd see the seals pop out of the black and into the highlighted area where the feeder is. It's a little bit lighter in general around the penguins. I might turn off some of the lights. But I think, generally speaking, you would still see them emerge and kind of feast from there. But let's just watch here for a second. Hello! And look, Cthulhu's eyes over there in the distance. See, doesn't that look beautiful? That looks really good. Not to like big myself up or something. I'm just really happy with how this turned out. I think that is honestly beautiful. It reminds me of all those nature documentaries you'd watch, because the animals are often shrouded in the darkness of the water, and then they come into the camera light or whatever, and that's when you'd first see them. That really makes me happy. Who's having a baby? Let's watch the baby. Hey, stop fighting. She's a pregnant mother. Give you a second. Let you pop out the kid. Oh god, there's a lot of babies. I'm really hoping we get some baby seals at some point as well. What's up here? Animal welfare. Are you stuck? Sometimes they'll get stuck in a slightly awkward position, which I think is what's happened here. Yeah, so I just need to shuffle you across and you'll be okay. I don't have any babies. I got a baby! It's Mackenzie. The very first baby in our aquatic park is Mackenzie, the king penguin. There she is. Hello, Mackenzie. Alright, anyway, so, ladies and gentlemen, that's our first two habitats done. Really happy with both. Both are very different in their own special way, but yeah, I'm really happy with how both have turned out. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the builds. Like I say, next episode is the Terrapin, but I did try to do something not that different, but I mixed it up a little bit, I think. It's hard to make exhibit animals too interesting, but it's a pretty big build in some ways, and there's some pretty cool little features. So come back tomorrow for that video, and then after that we're going to be moving on to... You can't look at that. Basically the Terrapin's down here in the south right, and we're going to move along here, and we'll do the Otter, and we'll do the Cayman. I don't know what those are going to look like yet, which is why I haven't worked on them yet. I don't have my grand idea quite at this point in time, but I'll do a little research, I'll look on Pinterest, etc., and I'm sure something will show up. Until then, from me and Mackenzie, our newborn baby penguin, and all my lovely basking seals, there they are, having a little snooze. In what it still looks like the most awkward position, but I know it's realistic. Thank you so much for joining me. A little scratch. Scratch, scratch. Thanks for joining me. Cheers much as always. Hit the like button if you're enjoying this series as well. It really does help, you know. Just throw a like if you're enjoying this Planet Zoo episode. I'll see you folks next time. Cheers much as always. Bye-bye.